Hi, good morning. My name is Miriam Speda, and give me 1 second as I get this PowerPoint going. Okay. My name is Miriam Speda. I am the executive director here at the Gelman Stained Glass Museum. We are very excited to have partnered up with South Texas College Library Art Gallery. Gina Otvos had reached out to us in collaborating with STC campus and in discussing, to be a part of their webinar series in talking about the Gelman Stained Glass Museum, our collection, and what we are about. I would like to play a short video. Give me 1 second because it does this, and give me 1 more second. Now it doesn't work. Okay, give me 1 more second, please. Okay, that is that. You share. Can everybody see the screen? Okay, so the Gelman Stained Glass Museum is the largest and most comprehensive stained glass exhibit in the United States. You may have noticed us across the Basilica on the east end of the Basilica or off the highway. We are the largest and most comprehensive stained glass exhibit in the United States, as well as we are the only museum in the world to solely be constructed to replicate a cathedral. Not only do we look like a church from the exterior, but we also look like a church from the interior. Why was this? We wanted to recreate a sacred environment for not only in creating a transcendental experience for our visitors, but in...
Miriam, 1 second, sorry. We don't see your video.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, that's why. Okay, I am so sorry. Told you. Let's start again. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Does it work now?
There you go.
Okay, let's start again. Welcome to the Gelman Stained Glass Museum. We are the largest and most comprehensive stained glass exhibit from the United States. You may have had noticed us across the Basilica here in San Juan, as well as from the expressway, as we look like a cathedral from the exterior, as well as from the interior. This was done for 2 purposes, one of which was to create a transcendental experience for our visitors, as well as to recreate a sacred environment that our collection was originally intended for. So we have over 174 windows on display, altars, statues, chandeliers, basically anything you would find in a church, you can find here at the museum. Therefore, that is why we wanted to recreate the cathedral-like architecture from the exterior as well as the interior to give these pieces, these art masterpieces, a proper home. Today, we have a very special treat for you as our history/archivist intern from University of Texas Rio Grande Valley. Luz Rodriguez will be talking about specific windows found in our Capilla Sur. And so here I'm pausing the video for you to see. This is our Capilla Sur. As you can see, it looks like a chapel, right? And we will be discussing 10 windows that are part of the J&R Lamb Studios collection. They are the only J&R Lamb Studios collection in the museum. And all of these windows belonged to someone over 100 years ago. They were part of St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Albany, New York. And, to commemorate and to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, we wanted to discuss about these individuals. We wanted to honor these individuals in bringing their stories back to life. These individuals, they passed over 100 years ago. And, we like to remind our visitors and, those that are watching that these windows are more than just art. They are also people, in essence. These are stories that, if it wasn't for the museum, they would have perished if they were not preserved for safekeeping. So without further ado, I would like to let Luz Rodriguez take the floor for her presentation of Dia de los Muertos. Luz, can you?
Yes.
Okay, give me one. Oh, you see, give me one more second. This is not my friend over here. Go back over here, this one. Okay, so then if I want to click anything, can you see anything? Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then I will let you take the floor.
Hello, thank you for joining us today in honoring the memory of the parishioners who once attended St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Albany, New York. My name is Luz Rodriguez, and I am a history and archivist intern at the Gilman Stained Glass Museum. One of the frequent questions we get asked at the museum is, are our windows replicas? Who are the names of these people inscribed in our windows? Where are they from? All our windows are original, and as Miriam mentioned, we have 174 stained glass windows, most of which are commemorated to individuals across the United States. And here at the museum, we pride ourselves in not only preserving art, but also in preserving the memory of individuals. Dia de los Muertos is a day in which we celebrate our departed loved ones, but it is also a day that bonds community. People come together to build community altars, share food, and share memories. Today, in following our Mexican heritage at the museum, we keep our customs alive and their memory alive, which would have been forgotten had it not been for the museum preserving the memory. Today in particular, I will be presenting on 8 memorial windows that honor these parishioners at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. These memorial windows are located in the Capilla Sur of the museum, created by J&R Lamb Studios at the turn of the 19th century. The windows are beautiful to look at, but they are more than pieces of art. Each window has a history that for the individuals it honors. And by looking at the inscriptions of the windows, you may get the sense that these individuals were loved dearly by their family members. However, in researching deeper into the lives of these individuals, I started to unravel the story of a congregation with a strong sense of community and how they were significant in the growth of their community at St. Paul's and in New York. Now, for a brief history of the church. In 1827, St. Paul's Church of Albany, New York, was formed by priest Richard Bury, who served as priest from 1827 to 1830. The original building was located on Ferry Street and had been previously used as a schoolhouse. Out of the direction of priest Bury and the vestry, the congregation sold pews in an effort to raise funds for the construction of a new building. By 1839, they successfully moved to their new building on Pearl Street, which was a theater before its reconstruction. However, in the years leading up to the US Civil War in 1861, the church faced financial struggles, making them move again. In 1864, the congregation moved to a building on Lancaster Street that was partially completed by the Dutch Reformed congregation. It was at this location that these parishioners that we are honoring for Dia de los Muertos called home. When talking about the church, we have to remember that these parishioners considered this facility their home. This was their community, surrounded by daily events and activities that involved their parish, from Sunday services, baptisms, weddings, holidays, and funerals. This was their life. However, the history of the church did not stay at Lancaster Street. In 1965, the congregation moved to Hackett Boulevard, where it currently resides today. In the following pictures, you can see the demolition of St. Paul's at Lancaster Street in 1964. St. Paul's Episcopal Church was demolished because it was an obstacle in Governor Rockefeller's construction plans of the Empire State Plaza. In the following image, you see a document discussing the fate of the windows. It was decided that St. Paul's windows were to be preserved by the government and were to be stored for safekeeping until the parish was able to buy back 10 windows made by J&R Lamb Studios with a window fund that was given to the church. On July 28, 1964, St. Paul's bought back its first window titled Christ in the Home of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus for $200. In time, the church bought back the remaining 9 windows. The following image shows the narthex of the church's new building on Hackett Boulevard, where 10 J&R Lamb windows were placed. However, the support for the windows became unstable and the church was unable to pay for the repairs needed, leading them to sell the windows in 2005. That same year, the church had reached out to Adrian Hay Mayers, a stained glass art broker from New York, who assisted the acquisition of these lamb windows. They were sold to the private collection of Dr. Lawrence Gilman. These windows were the first to be publicly displayed at the Imus Museum in McAllen for their Sacred Visions exhibit from 2012 to 2016. It was from this exhibit that gave Dr. Gilman the idea to build his own stained glass museum. Before we discuss the windows and the people they were commemorated for, we must acknowledge this period in America, which is considered to be the Gilded Age. At this time, the Industrial Revolution was happening in the United States, which brought about the emergence of Art Nouveau. Nouveau is a French word for new, and the Art Nouveau movement aimed for new modern design in the decorative arts. With the expansion of the Industrial Revolution, the world underwent profound economic, social, and cultural transformations. Artists were tired of historicism in the late 19th century and were concerned that the Industrial Revolution would bring uniformity, making no room for imagination in art. In response, artists saw the need to move away from the poor quality imitations of earlier traditional styles, which continued to dominate the decorative arts. Next slide. As you can see in the images of the slideshow, the new style that artists created was characterized by organic shapes and elegant flowing designs. You can see how artists design undulated, asymmetrical lines and winding whiplash curves that resemble the stems, vines, and flowers of plants. In the first image, the flowers surrounding the woman's head are not all the same shade of pink. There is not much uniformity since the sky behind the angels do not look the same because different shades of blue are used. The fourth image shows how Art Nouveau was represented in different mediums, such as architecture and interior design. Art Nouveau is the idea of escaping the Industrial Revolution and returning back to crafts and nature. During this period of time, the world was moving to the future at a fast rate, and Art Nouveau is taking a pause to appreciate the imperfections of Mother Nature that are especially represented in American glass. Such representations were showcased at the Paris International Exposition, also known as World's Fair of 1900. Joseph and Richard Lamb from Lamb Studios in New York City were one of the few to represent America and the Art Nouveau style. For this window here, titled Religion and Thrones, they won 2 gold medals. With their achievements, the American style of glass emerged with J&R Lamp Studios at the forefront of this industry. As the Industrial Revolution emerged in the metropolitan areas, New York's urban life was rapidly growing, and with it came the need for the church communities to keep up with the times. St. Paul's Episcopal Church was of no exception. At the turn of the 19th century, the church edifice of St. Paul's was in desperate need of repairs. Here we have Priest Brooks, who served as St. Paul's new priest in 1906. The World Fair had brought exposure to the American Art Nouveau style, and Priest Brooks wanted to elevate the interior of the church with American glass. Lamp Studios spearheaded the American Nouveau style of windows that emerged during the Gilded Age in America. Lamp Studios at this time had a reputation in replacing the bareness and ugliness of church interior of those days with harmonious color. Priest Brooks was successful in the beautification of St. Paul's with the help of influential parishioners who attended the church. 24 windows were dedicated by the end of Priest Brooks' term in 1926. As mentioned in the previous slide, St. Paul's was in desperate need of repairs. Here is a clipping from the Times Union newspaper in 1908 that illustrates St. Paul's progress. In the following years, parishioners came together to create a beautiful and sacred space of worship. The families of the individuals made the generous donation of the 12 memorial windows in our collection at the museum. Next, we have the Bew family. Lancelot Bew was born in 1841 and passed away in 1893. His spouse, Mary, was born in 1822 and passed away in 1887. They had 3 children. Their son, William, was born in 1850 and passed away at the age of 30 in 1870. Their daughter, Ada, was born in 1855 and passed away at the age of 44 in 1899. Their third child was Mary Alice, who married James Gaisley. Mary Alice Bew, also known as Miss James Gaisley, dedicated the window titled Andrew Bringing Peter to Christ for her family on New Year's Day in 1908. Next, we have the Van Allen family, whose ancestry in America is traced back to the colonial time period. During the early settlement of North America, New Netherlands was founded in 1614 under the Dutch West India Company, a merchant company focused on fur trade. New Netherlands' capital was New Amsterdam, which later became the New York colony in 1664 under English colonization. In 1658, the Van Allen family became early Dutch settlers of the Hudson Valley. Adam Van Allen and Elizabeth M. Barker married on September 6, 1960. They had one son, Garrett Van Allen. Adam was a wholesale lumber merchant. In 1857, he retired from the lumber business to become a banker of Albany, New York. Garrett began his business career as a clerk in a wholesale dry goods store in 1850. He became chief clerk and attorney for his father, Adam, in 1854. After 1866, Garrett became prominently identified with the National Board of Fire Underwriters, holding positions on its executive committee and as chairman of the Incendiaries and Arson Committee. The window Christ at the Home of Mary, Martha, and Lazarus was dedicated by Adam's son, Garrett Van Allen, and his wife on April 14, 1908, for his parents after their death. Before electricity was invented by Thomas Edison, people used gas lamps to light their homes and streets. Slightly tipping the gas lamp or unguarded supervision could lead to fire accidents. In 1848, a great fire destroyed almost 500 buildings and ships docked in the Albany Basin, causing great damage to business and trade. In being part of the National Board of Fire Underwriters, founded in 1866, Garrett Van Allen helped create the standards for fire coverage used by insurance companies today. In 1864, Garrett also became one of the 5 incorporators and first directors of the First National Bank of Albany, New York. Through his occupation in business, he was significant to the development of the national banking system. Next, we have James Gaisley, who was born in 1830. Mr. Gaisley married Mary Alice Bew, and they had 3 children, Melinda, Liza T., and James W. Mr. Gaisley was a well-known figure in Albany because he owned one of the largest quarries that produced granite at Bar, Vermont. In 1861, he established his business of making monuments and headstones from marble and granite. Gaisley's work supplied the memorials of Albany Rural Cemetery, where most of the parishioners at St. Paul's Episcopal Church have laid to rest. When the US Civil War broke out in 1861, Gaisley's work was monumental in supplying memorials for fallen soldiers at an affordable price for their grieving families. On October 3rd, 1935, Mr. Gaisley passed away at the age of 77. The window Christ and Nicodemus was dedicated for Mr. Gaisley by his wife, Mary Alice Bew, and his daughter, Eliza T., on May 20, 1910. For the first time, St. Paul's Episcopal Church was powered by electricity at the unveiling of the window, demonstrating that the church had caught up with the times. Albany, New York, was the country's first cities to be powered by electricity. The following video illustrates how parishioners would have felt to see electricity for the first time. So I will go ahead and play the video. Just give me a second.
Gentlemen,
Can you hear it?
may I introduce Mr.
Can you hear the volume or no?
Yes.
Okay.
Thomas Edison? Ten,
This is a turning point in history, Mrs. Russell. But are we headed in the right direction?
We don't have a choice in the matter, Mr. McAllister. We must go where history takes us.
As illustrated in the video, the use of electricity at the unveiling of the window would have been very excited and is a historical moment. Next, we have John A. Hand, born in 1817, and his wife, Marietta Burr Hawley, born in 1821. They were founders of the Mr. and Mrs. John A. Hand Endowment Fund in 1878. In 1905, both Mr. and Mrs. Hand passed away. The window, the Angel of Resurrection, was dedicated on April 9, 1911, by George Clement Hawley for his uncle and aunt. Next, we have the Benedict family. Czar Hamilton Benedict was born on December 1st, 1802. In 1850, Czar worked as a harness maker at the age of 48. He retired in 1857. Mr. Benedict had two spouses. Mr. Benedict and his first spouse, Mary Ann Forrester, had 3 children. Mary Ann was their only daughter. Their son, Robert Forrester, was born in 1830 and passed away at the age of 27 in 1857. Their second son, Charles Edwin, was born in 1832. In 1850, Charles worked as a clerk at the age of 18. Charles passed away during his early 70s in 1907. Mr. Benedict's second wife is Martha Allen Denton, who died in 1890 at the age of 79. They had one daughter, Sarah Elizabeth, born in 1844. Sarah married John Ensign Walker. Later, Sarah Elizabeth passed away in 1926. Czar Benedict passed away at the age of 86 in 1887 at his home located at Court Street, New York. Sarah Elizabeth dedicated the window, St. Paul, and the Angel of God in memory of the Benedict family on May 6, 1912. Next, we have Wallace Nelson Horton, who was born in 1846. Mr. Horton had 2 spouses and 7 children. His first spouse, Priscilla Miranda Browning, was born in 1849 and died of pneumonia in 1899. His second spouse, Elizabeth Chamberlain, was born in 1858. Elizabeth was the eldest daughter of General Frank and sister of Honorable Eugene Tyler of Washington, D.C. Mr. and Mrs. Horton married in Eugene's drawing room on October 27, 1903. Mrs. Horton loved helping others and was a member of the Women's Relief Society at St. Paul's. In newspaper clippings, she is described as being beautiful in character and having a gentle sweetness. Elizabeth died of bone cancer on April 27, 1905. Mr. Horton served as vestryman from 1888 to 1902 and warden from 1902 to 1908 at St. Paul's Episcopal Church. He was also co-partner of G.W. Van Slyke and Horton, one of the largest cigar manufacturing companies in Albany, New York. One of his company's popular cigars is named after the city's former mayor, Peter Schuler. Mr. Horton died at the age of 63 in 1910. The window St. John, St. Peter, and Mary Magdalene at the Tomb of Christ was dedicated on June 6, 1912 by the children of Mr. Horton. Next, we have Andrew Barton Jones, who was born in 1840. Alice Tucker, his wife, was born in 1843 and passed away in 1891. They had 5 children, including Sidney Tucker, who was born in 1878 and passed away in 1958, sorry. Andrew Barton Jones was St. Paul's vestryman and warden for a decade. Mr. Jones became partners with John Walker in the Hudson Valley Paper Company, founded in 1875. In 1909, Mr. Jones passed away. Sidney Tucker, like his father, was St. Paul's vestryman and warden. He served 40 years in these roles, mostly as senior warden. He married Gwenola Smith, and the couple's daughter, Alice, married George Taylor, St. Paul's priest from 1932 until 1948. After John Walker's death in 1919, Sidney Tucker Jones became president of the company, which remained in the Jones family for 5 generations until its acquisition by Lyndon Meyer Monroe in 2012. On May 18, 1913, Sidney Tucker Jones dedicated the window Adoration of the Magi in memory of his parents. For our last memorial window, we honor Charles Chamberlain Gay, who was born in 1835 and passed away in 1913. He married Mary E. Quinby, who was born in 1854 and passed away in 1920. The window titled The Farewell of St. Paul and Miletus was the 24th stained glass window completed in the priesthood of Brooks. The window was dedicated for Mr. Gay by his wife and 3 sisters on November 2nd, 1913, and the window's 109th year anniversary since its dedication is tomorrow for Dia de los Muertos. And here are sources I use for my research that is still ongoing. Also, in honoring the parishioners at St. Paul's, let us remember their deep significance, not only to the history of the state of New York, but also in the United States. As mentioned, through their involvement in their church community and through their occupations, they contributed to the development of industries that still impact us today, such as the national banking system and insurance against fire disasters. Thank you for being here and preserving such a meaningful history of the community at St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Albany, New York. At this time, I would like to invite Paul Nance, who's on this call from Albany, New York. He is St. Paul's Episcopal Church historian and author of Grain Once Scattered, to answer any questions and to speak a few words. Thank you.
Is Paul on?
Jan?
Hi, yes, he's here. We're working on getting him a co-host. He should be able to.
Yes, we would like to really give our appreciation to Mr. Nance. He is the author of Grain Once Scattered. He's joined this call. He's been helping with the research for Luz. As those that are familiar with archives, especially with the church's archives, it's a very tedious process. They don't belong to the government per se, so you really have to have a close relationship with the archival collection of the church. And Mr. Paul has a true passion of the history of St. Paul's in Albany, New York. And if there's any questions revolving around the history of St. Paul's, Mr. Nance would be able to answer any questions. And also we would like to introduce him, as he's been very instrumental in Luz's research.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to be here, and first of all to thank you, Miriam, for your enthusiasm for recognizing these windows as more than just pretty pictures in class. They are certainly that. Am I being heard? Is my voice being heard?
Yes.
Um, and for recognizing the importance of seeing these as more than pretty pictures in glass, as true memorials to people who are otherwise might be forgotten. There's a wonderful line from the book of Ecclesiasticus. And some there be which have no memorial, who are perished as though they had never been, and are become as though they had never been born, and their children after them. The work that Miriam and Luce have been doing in pulling together this information is very important, because it does make clear the interesting and rich lives of these people, and it's right that they should have a memorial. I'd also like to thank the museum staff, all the staff, and especially Miriam, for keeping these windows safe. I noticed, by the way, that one of the questions was whether St. Paul's has any interest, any ownership, retains any ownership of these windows. The answer is absolutely no. We sold those windows. They are now fully the property, of course, of the Gelman Stained Glass Museum. We are very, very pleased that they are being not only maintained and kept safe, but are being displayed and are also, again, being shown and displayed in an educational way to represent their importance as memorials, as art objects, and so on. So thank you very much, everybody. I'd be glad to answer. If there are questions, I'd be glad to answer any.
I would just like to add to your comment, Paul, that, because we've been asked that question also, obviously, and something that, we try to remind our visitors is that, 100 years ago, the Industrial Revolution was happening, right? So buildings were being built, art was being produced at such a fast pace. 100 years later, as with time, it's deteriorating. And so with these, for St. Paul's, for example, they had, the government changed plans of their construction. So they took out St. Paul's. There's other buildings where they're just dilapidated. And so the question comes, what do they do with these windows? And a lot of the times they don't, it's a very tedious procedure to take them down, to preserve them, to put them in a safe, it's a cost. The cost of it alone is it's too much for the church. And so this is where that fine line comes in, where what do we do next? Do we let, say the church building gets, they take it down, right? What do? Sometimes if they don't find a buyer, if they don't find a proper home for them, they break them. That is the reality. And then they're perished. And so this is something that, here at the museum, we're very happy to preserve the art as well as the history, because in our experience with other museums, they don't even want the memorial. They'll take the art piece, but they'll put away the memorial, and nobody even knows about these people. And
Exactly.
But we preserved everything intact to its pristine condition.
Yes, thank you. And again, we fully appreciate that, and thank you. Seeing them all together at one time also is an overwhelmingly emotional experience for me. I've never seen them all, one photograph with them all laid out like that, and it's a very emotional experience. Thinking about the history of the church, the beauty of those things, and the people, the lives that they represented. I find it very moving.
So beautiful. And tomorrow night, you're having a live event, right, at the museum? I think you're muted.
Yes, before leaving the Gelman Stained Glass Museum, we'd like to invite you to our in-person celebration of Dia de los Muertos tomorrow at 6 p.m. Museum admission is required, and as college students and faculty, you receive discounted admission rates for the event. You are welcome to bring candles and flowers as an offering for these parishioners. Thank you.
I did have a question from the chat, a couple of questions. I didn't mean to make you move on or anything. So for the themes of the windows, did the families have a choice in what was going to be made for them? How were the themes arrived? How are the themes of each of the windows arrived at? Do you guys know at all?
I don't know. That's an excellent question, and I would love to know the answer. I do know, obviously it's St. Paul's Church, and a number of the windows represent events in the life of Paul. Actually, I should mention, and I've just discovered this recently, there were 3 additional J&R Lamb windows in the church that did not make it to the new Hackett Boulevard building, and I'm still trying to figure out where those might have gone. They I believe were all related to the life of Paul, of St. Paul. So that some of the themes are related to that.
That makes sense. I had a question around that same realm of deciding the artwork, and I know today it's very expensive to make stained glass windows and to restore them. And I'm assuming an average family wouldn't be able to purchase this for their loved ones, for their to dedicate the window.
I'm sure that's true, and I'm sure that, and we know, as Luz has explained, these were not just these were people of substance,
Right.
who were able to come up with that kind of money. Yeah, it must have been quite expensive.
So I know, like in my research, I said the question, wondering the cost of these windows. These windows, if Paul doesn't know, I don't know either about these specific windows, but there is, like, we know of some other windows that we have here and what they cost in like 1899. And so, but of course, it just depends on the size of the window, the complexity of the window, and who the artist is. And of course, J&R Lamb Studios at this time period was the best artists at that time because they had just won at the World's Fair. And so some, like a guesstimate would be about like $1,000 to $5,000 in 1899. But if you do the conversion, 5,000 then is $300,000 now.
Yeah.
And so if you think about 300,000 in 1899, that's a lot of money. So $1,000, what is that? $100,000. So that is, and the price of a mansion back then was at $70,000. So you can kind of do the math to see what the types of these windows who were commemorated for. So they're obviously of some significance, and that's why we also wanted to play that video. If you paid attention to that video, you saw the upper class, they were seeing electricity for the first time. They're all dressed up, but those were the wealthier individuals able to commemorate windows for a loved one. Those were the 1%, if you want to call them the bourgeoisie. All right, yes.
That's what I figured, but figured I'd ask. Does anyone else have any other questions before we bring this to an end? Anything else you all would like to say? I think it's a great opportunity tomorrow to be able to attend the actual museum, to go see these windows in person. And if you are coming from STC, you do get that $5 entrance fee. If not, it's still totally worth it to pay. And Luz is going to give a presentation again, correct, on these windows.
And that discount, if say you're unable to come at 6 p.m., but you're able to come, we're open from 4 to 7. So all day will be the $5 discount for STC or UTRGV. We ask that you purchase online so we can make sure we have enough materials and things for that day. But if not, you can most definitely pay in person. We just ask that you sign in and show your ID or an email that you are affiliated with the university or college. And we hope to see you all soon. It's going to be a nice, visiting the museum is a magical experience for anyone, or if you haven't been here, this would be a good time. So you get a good discount as well as if you need extra credit, you can check that off your list too.
And something I didn't realize was you're open at night because it's all LED lit.
We're open at night. We're open 4 to 7 is our weekday hours, and then 12 to 6 is our weekend hours.
Okay.
And so 4 to 7 is our weekday hours. If you are wanting to do a group visit, we open our doors for groups of 10 or more. And that works at any time. It doesn't follow our hours of operation per se. But yes, we are open on the weekends, 12 to 6. However, I will admit we are closed every Saturday until the end of the year because we are a venue. And so there are events happening every Saturday until the end of the year. So we're closed on Saturdays for the rest of this year, unfortunately.
And Marion, can you remind us the price of admission?
So regular admission, it starts at $20 for adults and then $15 for students, for our college students. Teachers, faculty, it's $15 as well, $15 for military, veterans, first responders. And then for children under 12, it's $10. And all of that can be found on our website. Wait, pause share. Yes,
GelmanMuseum.com.
Gelman. I'm trying to see if I can just like really quickly, you can go to our website just so I can show you. Give me 1 second. Gelman. So if you go here, you can buy tickets. This is the easiest way. And then you just click the date. As I said, Saturdays we are closed. Actually, we're open next Saturday, but that actually it's just group tours for the most part. So next Saturday we are open, but everything else is closed. But just check our calendar of events. We're open during the week. Next week, we will be open all day. We have a live exhibit happening starting at 9. For those that may have seen it in the paper, we're having our second Mary Tillinghast window installed. And so that's pretty exciting. We do ask that whoever is watching our video today, like us on Facebook, you'll be up to date with anything that's going on as far as events. And is there any other questions? I see somebody put something in the chat. What is regular admission? Okay, I already got that one.
I have one final question.
Yes.
How do I get that painting behind you?
There's a long story to this paint. We actually have 2. Luz has one behind her too. But this one is it's a replica of Van der Weyden. It's Descent of the Cross, and Europe is they did a replica, but they did paint it in Europe and then brought it to the United States, and
Well,
it came torn the first
oh
time.
no.
And then that's why we have 2, because we had to get another one, the insurance and all that good stuff, which was not fun.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for attending, and a very special thanks to the Gelman Museum for presenting today. If you have any further questions, just reach out to either of us here at the SDC Library or at the Gelman Museum. I'll be over at the museum tomorrow night. So I'll see you there if you're there. If not, thank you for attending today.
Thank you.
Thank you.